From the 60s to the early 80s, land yachts roamed the highways of America chrome vinyl, and large engines have been the usual. This is virtually now not the case in gift time, especially with automakers focusing on electric powertrains. Larnot is an informal category of massive motors, and to most that strictly method from American producers, typically this time period is used to reference the vehicles constituted of the past due 50s through the mid-70s. There are exceptions, just like the Grand Fury or Chrysler's R-body platform form from 79 to 81, the ones have been greater than 18 feet lengthy in the same ballpark as a cutting-edge Marquis GSL or long wheelbase. Lots were incredible cushy, they featured a gentle floaty ride, and of route were very spacious. And this segment turned into ruled by Cadillac, Lincoln, and Imperial. I stated earlier that Lanat are strictly American. However, the Mercedes 600 and in all likelihood the Phantom 6 may want to really be taken into consideration. I sense like limos shouldn't be referred to just due to the fact they weren't exactly reachable to everybody. And some had very limited manufacturing runs. Lincoln and Cadillac both had their versions, and while they are lovely, they don't always fit with this list. A number of the caddies have been prolonged from the factory, and I'll touch base in this later. However, Maximum had been modified from out of doors, educate organisations. While maximum of the motors on this list fit the standards of being a Lanot, there are a few that are not by using technical standards, regardless if they're or now not. These vehicles have been the longest from the 1970s. I did a decent activity developing this list of path. I'm not a professional by using any stretch of creativeness. I wasn't even born all through this time, so endure with me with all that. Stated I do, positive hope you enjoyed this week's video. It became really an amusing one to make. Starting up is the second one-generation Mercury Marquis that ran from 1969 till 1978. It now not best rides like a gem. It looks as if one. Mercury Marquis built better to ride. Better on the signal of the cat. The Marquis changed into the counterpart of the LTD at some point of this time, and I might say this turned into their flagship model. Especially the primary era Marquis became just provided as a two-door hardtop. Now with the second era, clients ought to opt in for a sedan tube convertible or station wagon. So essentially, the Marquis changed into expanded to a complete model variety, the wheelbase changed into longer on the two-door and four-door sedans in comparison to the Colony Park and had been about 9 in longer. In period, there were a couple of engine options offered. A 351 up to a 460 made it into a 3-speed auto with rear-wheel power, while this turned into at the identical platform because the LTD these have been nonetheless 4 to 5 in longer, coming in at 229 in, which is a little over 919 feet. Once I say 229 in, I'm relating to the fashions from 1973 and up. This become whilst the Marquis might get hold of a huge mid-cycle refresh, and the addition of these 5 mph bumpers added to each the front and rear in my book. This is a super example of a Lanot. These have been highly priced, spacious, and furnished a range of V8 options. The Monaco became probably the greatest full-size Dodge through 1973, with the Polara bow similar to the Caprice and Impala at Chevy and the LTD in Galaxy 500 over at Ford for 1974. The Polaro became dropped in all likelihood due to a few emissions and stuff, and so the Monaco turned into left on the turnside to the Marquis, wherein the sedans have been longer than the wagons for the Monaco. It became the alternative, and this is the third era of this model, and it ran from 1974 till 1977. There was a 4-door sedan, 2-door coupe and hardtop, and of route a wagon. The 1974 wagon became 223.250 in, and the 76 model became even longer, coming in at 229.5, making it half an inch longer than the Marquis, as a minimum for 1976. There were 2 engine options, the 400 that came trendy, or the optional 440 each had been mated into Chrysler's 3-pace torque flight transmission and were rear-wheel pressure. There had been 3 special trim levels provided starting with the Monaco, because the base from there, the Royal, and the one of the best the Brome changed into, was the most picked of the bunch, and they featured those splendid timber panelling. Opposition for the Monaco wagon would be the LTD Country Squire and the Caprice Estate wagon, all of which as a minimum, from modern point of view, are mind-blowing. The brochure states that this wagon changed into, quote, unusual, luxurious and uncommon. It changed into with less than 6,000, built in 1976, making those very uncommon to come back via subsequent, is the Lincoln Continental Mark V. It is. If I'm sincere, of all of the cars that I featured in this channel, the Mark V has been featured the most. I'm now not complaining, simply due to the fact